I expect there will be so many people that come down here to support.
We're gonna try his fusion pizza. At first, I was thinking it might taste weird because the ingredients are super unusual, right? You know, he puts like bonito flake, sakura ebi, like mentaiko mayonnaise, but interestingly, it merges really well with Western food, Japanese food. Impressive. Now I want to try your izakaya menu.
Right. Now I do sake lala. How about that?
Sake lala, okay.
Okay?
Sounds cool.
Okay.
Thank you. Wow, super smooth.
So I'm using the more local Southeast Asia kind of clam. Singaporean and Japanese both like clams very much. So this is the reason I'm adding this dish into my izakaya bites. Good. The sake lala is done. Some spring onion. This is for you.
Thank you, Ben. Wow.
Yeah.
This reminds me of my home country. This is super authentic. We call it the takamushi. Itadakimasu.
Yeah, itadakimasu. Is it okay?
Wow. You taste sake, the alcohol. You taste the garlic. You taste the chicken broth. It's super nice. Great with beer. Sake.
Hey, Joshua.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
I heard so much about your umami pizza.
Yes, I should do one for you.
Give me a good umami punch.
A punch. Hearing from the experts about izakayas, we actually created something different from the authentic izakayas. I should say we created a very local kampong izakaya scene for our customers. Yeah, so far the feedback was good. Bon appetit.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ben's place reminds me of a very small, homely kind of izakaya in a suburb of Tokyo or in Fukuoka and all this, you know, away from the bustling lights and, you know. So you feel there's a lot of love in this food.
I'm very happy with the launch today because I get to see a lot of people come here and they are enjoying themselves. I actually learned a lot, especially at this very challenging period of time due to COVID-19. I learned how to manage my own emotion during the uncertainty, like the first HA, the second HA. What happened next in the future? Nobody can tell, but I think I learned to be more grateful because of this whole F&B journey.
I'm Naren, an actor and home baker. After a long days of work, this is how I usually unwind. I bake. I want to expand my home-based brownie business.
Is running a cafe a part of your big picture?
I'm taking steps to get there.
Go, stop.
But will I fail before I begin?
I've been thinking of trying something new.
I'll be honest, I'm not a fan.
Dish Upon a Star, Sunday on CNA.
"25 years ago, Japan controlled 50% of the global video game market.
So in the late 80s and 90s, video games was Japan. It was Nintendo and it was Sega. In the 2000s, that started to change.
Today, its share of the industry is under 10%.
Game development got kind of rigid, and that's where Japan kind of got caught in this trap.
What is the cause of this decline? And can Japan ever regain the top spot?
そうですね。僕にとってみると新しいテクノロジーでどんどんなんか境界を押し上げていくというか、新しいチャレンジをし続ける。日本の独特なクリエイティブっていうのはあるような気がします。3年後くらいを楽しみにしていただけると非常に面白いと思いますよ。
Japan's comeback game, premiering October the 2nd, Saturday on CNA.
Every day, the financial world goes through dramatic rise and falls. We'll track the biggest market movers and show you where the opportunities lie. Get the experts' take on the performance of key indices. plus all the analysis to help you understand forces driving global economies. The daily business news you need, only on CNA. This segment is brought to you by Xeon Corporation. This is Singapore Tonight.
Good evening, I'm Steve Lai. Tonight's top stories. Social science and humanities research in Singapore gets a boost, a $457 million increase to strengthen a growing ecosystem. A new survey reveals a majority of Singapore-based employers don't have diversity, equity and inclusion policies, yet most recognize the positive impact they have. Nearly 44,000 employers to receive payouts totaling over $900 million. It comes under the Job Support Scheme to support the wages of local employees. Workers caught in the deadly Tuas building explosion given little guidance on workplace safety and housekeeping. A survivor gives a harrowing account before an inquiry committee at the state courts. Bakeries old and new put a spin on the traditional mooncake for this year's Mid-Autumn Festival.
I'm Dawn Tan, also tonight, making the case for the US return to the global stage. President Joe Biden makes his maiden speech at the UN General Assembly. A new Patriots-only system from Beijing to solve Hong Kong's housing shortage.
I'm Elizabeth Neo with your Asia Business Update, bringing women entrepreneurs together to grow their business and influence policy. Plus, a new playbook to help the F&B sector boost staffing and efficiency.
Nearly $500 million in extra funding will be spent on social science and humanities research over the next 5 years. Projects eligible for the money include those that aim to solve Singapore's socio-economic challenges. Heidi Young with more.
Program. So this book is for the seniors themselves? Yes.
A resource book on healthy aging and a program designed to engage the elderly who live alone. They're the fruits of almost 3 years of labour.
Our project actually targeted this group of elderly to help them to achieve better health care outcomes and quality of life. This program basically comprises 12 weekly group sessions on aging-related topics, at least 2 home visits, and plus a health resource book. So we actually did the pilot study to test the feasibility and potential effectiveness of this SHIP program.
Prof Wang's project was one of 37 beneficiaries of the Social Science Research Thematic Grant from 2016 to 2020. They tackled socio-economic issues such as challenges faced by low-income families and early childhood relations. Speaking at the Singaporean Researchers Global Summit hosted by the Nanyang Technological University, Education Minister Chan Chun Sing announced a 31% increase in spending for such research over the next 5 years.
My hope is that this continued investment will go towards fulfilling the following objectives: building an inclusive and excellent social science humanities research ecosystem in Singapore, that we remain committed to fostering an open research culture that is conducive to a broad spectrum of curiosity-driven research and also use-inspired research.
The $457 million will fund projects that take on complex issues like climate change and pandemics.
The Education Ministry and the Social Science Research Council is also launching a new graduate research fellowship. It'll help provide seed funding for collaborative projects with overseas Singaporeans.
Research grants of up to $10,000 for doctorate students and $20,000 for postdoctorate fellows will be awarded. Applications will open early next year.
A new survey says 7 in 10 Singapore-based employers don't have policies covering diversity, equity, and inclusion, even though they recognize the positive impact that they can have. Nearly 200 companies were polled by the Singapore National Employers Federation, and consulting firm Kincentric. Brandon Tanoto reports.
Of the 186 firms across 19 sectors polled between June and July this year, 7 out of 10 do not have diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. Also in the survey findings, challenges included a lack of available data, like gender pay gap and inequality in career progression. Others include the ineffectiveness of line managers when dealing with workers in a non-discriminatory manner.
It is not always the case that when an individual takes on a higher responsibility that they automatically are equipped with the right skills to manage their team effectively. So this is something that we need to be concerned about in terms of how do we upskill and equip our line managers.
Smaller firms face a tougher time putting in place such practices. For one, the cost is high.
Or they may not have the bandwidth, they may not even have a formal HR team looking after HR issues.
But these firms can tap on available resources. These include the Community Integration Fund. It subsidizes up to 80% of costs for activities such as those promoting workplace cohesion. The survey also revealed that more than half of the employers who don't have the policies in place are already taking steps to consider these as factors in hiring and promotion. It's part of their efforts to grow and retain their workforce.
After going through COVID last year, they are re-evaluating how they want to work and what are they looking for in terms of workforce, the workplace that they want to be part of. Is the workplace going to practice a lot more flexible working arrangements, right, to cater for mothers who have children at home, right? So how do we create workplaces that will be inclusive to bring them on board, as opposed to them going to other organizations where some of those benefit of flexible arrangements able to cater to their needs a lot better.
Such policies are intended to ensure that employees and job seekers are treated fairly, regardless of nationality, age, race, gender, or disability. A set of guidelines on workplace discrimination will soon be enshrined into law. Such legislation will give authorities more teeth against errant employers.
Over $900 million worth of payouts will be distributed to support the wages of more than 570,000 workers at the end of this month. The financial aid will be given to nearly 44,000 employers under the Job Support Scheme. We spoke to 2 companies on how the JSS helped them stay in business.
Food franchisee ABR Holdings Limited was among the businesses hard hit by the pandemic. It owns the Swenson's chain of restaurants in Singapore. They came up with creative takeaway promotions to cope with restrictions on F&B outlets. Such moves, along with the government financial support they received, were crucial to their survival.
The job support scheme has been an invaluable help, right, to our business, and most definitely to all businesses in this current period. The GSS has allowed us to effectively continue with minimal disruption, right? And also, more importantly, to be able to retain our staff, our employees, including those loyal team members who's been with us for decades.
Another company, O Open House, says the support kept them afloat amid waves of uncertainty. Last year's circuit breaker dealt a devastating blow as they could not run programs to generate revenue. But last April's payout allowed them to hang on.
We are under Tier 2, so it supports up to 70% at its peak, 70% of our salaries at its peak. So that help us not only help us retain our staff. Eventually, when the different support continue, we could produce shows like this show called New World's End, where it's a self-guided audio tour.
This latest payout, which includes wages from April to July, was extended beyond the usual 3-month coverage. This aims to provide cash flow support to firms affected by the prolonged crisis. To qualify, employers must make CPF contributions for local employees for the relevant months. Eligible employers will be notified of their entitled payout amount in late September. The funds will be disbursed from 30th September.
Workers caught in the deadly explosion at an industrial building in Tuas earlier this year were given little guidance on safety attire and housekeeping at their workplace. Now, this came to light as a survivor of the blast at Stars Engineering took to the stand before the inquiry committee in the state courts today. Li Ying with this report.
The second day of hearings into the fatal Tuas blast saw a worker who suffered burns on nearly 60% of his body take the stand. 22-year-old Mahedi turned up in court in a long-sleeved shirt and cap, with scars on his face, neck and hands still visible. The court heard that the Bangladeshi national was one of the workers involved in the production of an insulation material called fire wrap. He was tasked to assemble the wrap. Mr. Mahedi said that while the company would give safety briefings for client project sites, they would not brief on measures for the Tuas workshop. While they were issued safety equipment including helmets, gloves and safety goggles, the owner of the company only emphasized that workers put on safety shoes and respirators while making the fire wrap. Even so, workers did not always comply. And Mr. Mahedi said it was a common practice for them to wear slippers, which he donned on the day of the explosion as well. He explained that he thought the practice was okay while making the fire wrap because he was not carrying heavy items or metal objects and would not run the risk of injuring himself. He added that there was no guidelines on attire and workers often wore what they thought was comfortable. He himself would usually be in a long-sleeved shirt and jeans. The court also heard that the company did not give detailed guidance on how the worksite was to be cleaned, only that it had to be done daily after ingredients such as potato starch powder were used to make the fire wrap. Preliminary investigations had revealed that potato starch was the source of the explosion, which left 7 injured and 3 workers dead. Mr. Mahedi said that the compressor gun would be used to blow dust off tabletops and the floor would be swept. The inquiry committee also heard that during the accident, Mr. Mahedi was at the assembly table on the ground floor. When the explosion happened, he felt a hot gush of air pushing him and he fell. He later realized that his clothes had burned off, leaving him with only his pants. He ran to an open field in the back of the industrial estate where workers in the area doused him with a hose. He lost consciousness and woke up 3 days later in the hospital ICU. He told the court that doctors say his scars will not heal completely. The hearings continue on Wednesday, with more survivors of the blast expected to testify.
Close to 20 people were arrested on suspicion of bringing in foreigners on illegally obtained work passes. The Manpower Ministry says investigations involving a suspected syndicate are ongoing. The suspects were rounded up during a 12-hour operation island-wide last week.